for our next panel discussion on a very interesting topic, CX across sectors, a citizen-first approach. You see, when we use customer experience as a general term, we forget that a customer can mean different things to different industries and different sectors, but their end goal to deliver an optimal experience remains the same overall. In this mixed panel of experts from across industries, both public and private, you will hear about case studies, best practices, and lessons learned while implementing CX strategies across organizations and the challenges and opportunities that implementing an omnichannel strategy for citizen, customer, or visitor engagement poses. Speaking on the topic, first up, we have Mr. Feras Ahmed, Chief Executive Officer, Silla Gulf. In his role as CEO, Feras is responsible for providing leadership to Silla Gulf and developing strategies to advance the company's vision while promoting growth and profitability as an organization. He has led commercial and technical negotiations for the successful establishment of the company and has managed several high-value bids that culminated in long-term service contracts. He oversees company performance and works closely with the board of directors and the management team to ensure corporate efficiency, quality of service, and cost-effective management of resources. Please welcome him on stage with a huge round of applause. Next up, we have Mr. Hatem Bawazir, Head of Visitor Experience, Events and Festival Sector from the Ministry of Culture. With over 20 years of professional experience, Mr. Hatem brings with him a very deep knowledge of multi-channel communication strategies, a structured way of thinking, and deep analytical skills. Previously, he has been associated with brands like Samsung Electronics as their head of corporate marketing and Emaar, the Economic City, as their associate director of visitor experience. Please welcome him on stage with a huge round of applause. Next up, we have Mr. Mohammad Hegezi, Director of Customer Experience from Almatar. Mr. Hegezi is a dedicated, multi-talented professional with more than 15 years of experience with the global key players in the GCC, UK, and USA in travel, healthcare, e-commerce, and governmental sectors. In his role as Director of Customer Experience, Mr. Mohammed leads initiatives to ensure a consistent, positive experience for every customer and employee. Let's please welcome him on stage with another round of applause. Next up, we were supposed to have Dr. Sobi Suleiman Aga, Group Chief Marketing Officer from SAB Investment Co., but unfortunately, he's unable to join us here today for some unforeseen circumstances. But we move on, and lastly, moderating this session of experts, we have our session chair, Ms. Gada Al-Talal, Marketing Director, Tamimi Markets. Gada and her team seeks to reshape the way retail marketing operates in Saudi Arabia, maximizing on the impact customization would deliver and empowering the retail sector, repositioning the brand in the consumer mind. She has led several major national campaigns, achieving awards of recognition for proving the success of strategy in use, managing to sustain the growth of brands like Women in Marketing and You Can Make a Difference. Please welcome her with a huge round of applause again. Now that we have a full panel as well as the session chair, I'll leave it up to them to take the conversation forward. Over to you, Ms. Gada.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please aim low. This is my first moderation role that I have. I'm not nervous because it seems that we have a nice crowd around and we have pretty interesting guests. Today's session personally is very dear to my heart. CX for retail, a grocery store, which I hope you're all loyal customer to, is Tamimi Markets, where we have CX as the heart of what we do. This is today how we retain and entertain our customers, and we understand how much the challenges that comes within. So in today's session, please allow me to moderate the session with different topics such as best practices, challenges, and hopefully we all go with an insight that are practical enough for all of us to use in our businesses. طيب, I will start with you, Hatem. Coming from the ministry background, and specifically Ministry of Culture, which have witnessed recently a vast change in the way you operate. My question to you is, how does the definition of customer vary across the different industry? And what challenges does this pose when implementing CX strategy to the ministry today?
Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Thank you, Ghada, and thank you for hosting me today. For us, I just want to maybe distinguish between CX and VX. And I think this definition allows us to put context to where we design and measure. So we operate in the events and festival sector. So we all know, most probably, in my humble opinion, CX usually the design, the deployment, and the measurement happens in a controlled environment, whether it's on an online process or at the retail. So the customer is always engaging with this brand or service, and at his own convenient time. In events, it's totally the opposite. When we define, we switch the hat from customer to visitor, we measure and design in real time, because the moment of truth is when the customer enters that event, which is a 2-hour average duration, until he leaves. If we don't capture that and resolve in this period, then it becomes a bottleneck. So the way we design and measure, it's usually in a very short time, and it's in real time. The other thing, this put a main challenge on how data is flowing within the organization. How fast can we attract information and then give back to support or to fix? And for example, if you get data for an issue in an event, I can't wait until the customer or the visitor. I'm going to fix that in 48 hours. That's a controlled system that we built. However, what we do is we capture the information, and our SLA to fix issues in the event is in 12 hours. So I get the information, and then I have to project it to the company on the ground or the project manager to fix the issue. And this entails a lot of technological infrastructure, empowerment of the internal team, how data is flowing, and how the information flows within the organization.
Very well indeed. Thank you, Hatem. This is from the public sector perspective. Mohammed, from your experience in the private sector, similar question, that would be, how do you define the customer throughout this different industry? And again, what are the challenges that you foresee?
Yes. Especially for the travel industry, it's different a little bit, because the customer, when come to our application, he need to enjoy the moment, he feel the experience before it started. So we define it's the moment when the customer is come to find what he need, and he expected also to find that inside our application. This is part. Another part, he expecting part of that experience to find that while we are support. So our journey is to start in-trip and post-trip. So customer, in our case, expected the same experience to be support them while he traveling in journey, while the support. So we have both inside our company, customer experience and employee experience. Because our front line, if didn't understand what is the customer need, how to handle the customer, how to satisfy the customer, how to make them happy. Because again, it's a travel industry, I'm coming to that application to enjoy. I have a mission and I need to make it done. So we need to understand that deeply and working for that, and give the customer the moment and the feeling while he made this process.
All right. Okay, back to you, Hatem, and then Firas. What are the key differences between CX strategies in your sectors in particular, and how can your sector organization improve citizen engagement? and experience?
It's a very interesting and important one, I think. So, probably CX strategies usually, again, it goes back to the definition, the multiple interactions with the customer with the brand, whether touch points and so forth. So the sum of those define what is the customer interaction. In our case, in the events sector in the Ministry of Culture, is not only interactions. We deal with emotions. Again, it's an entertainment, and even culture today goes beyond entertainment. So if our events doesn't add a cultural value to people in terms of content, education, participation, this means we're doing what entertainment is doing. So there always has to be a differentiator within culture. Plus, I would use for our visitors the other side of the definition, which is the perception and the emotional impact of our event. So for me, promoters, when I measure the NPS, it's not about, I would recommend this event to my family and friends, but I would love to come back again. My kids, so that emotional touch is very important for us.
So I think with that, in your case in particular, is developing loyalty as you go within. They come back and they repeat. It's not about the purchase, it's about the feeling that they had, and how can you lock it for them to come again and again.
Exactly. Ghada, I just want to refer back to the loyalty, which you just mentioned. So Fred Ritchell, I recommend everyone here to read his book. Fred Ritchell is a consultant at Bain, and he's the co-author of 3 books. He created NPS. So his first 2 books, which was NPS 2.0, it's called The Ultimate Question. Last year, he co-authored a book called Winning on Purpose. So organizations has to go back on the purpose of why they're doing this. And he differentiated loyalty on the NPS. So for him, CX is about the NPS. And it's similar to all marketing strategies, your 80-20, who's your high-value customers, how you build a relationship, and the relationship goes to loyalty, and then with loyalty, you build incentives. In his book, the strategy, it's about the ultimate customer love. So he took the loyalty and retention to another sphere, or another level, which is a relationship that builds a love. You want your customers or visitors to go out loving the brand, and I think this is where it changes the whole perspective.
I think in retail we somehow call it shopper happiness. More or less, it's all about the feelings that we lock them in. I think it's just we had different terminologies in that.
Exactly. So the whole book is all about enriching rather than giving value, intrinsic and financial, to customers, is enriching their lives.
Yeah.
And no matter, every brand and every company does that in so many different ways. We do it in the event and festival and culture. So it involves the welcoming, the gifts, the interaction, how we treat adults versus disabled versus young, positive energy, being proactive, having all that. I think the good master of those is Disney, of course. We have Disney Academy, and they've done that. We've interacted with them, and they follow this this concept.
Thank you, Hatem. All right, to you, Firas, is it possible that you can share with us some examples of what is a successful CX strategy that you implemented within the industries that you have worked with, and what were the key factors that contributed to such success?
Thank you, Ghada. It's a pleasure to be here in the beautiful city of Riyadh, and I think it's we've been privileged and honored to serve a number of industries in Salagaf. So today we serve clients in the government sphere, in the telecoms, in the banking and financial services, healthcare, retail. And I would think that each and every client has their own unique CX strategy. If I split them into profit and non-profit organizations, it's 2 completely different strategies. One is more about, how do we drive customer retention, customer satisfaction, and thereby, grow the brand with the customer segment. In non-profit or specifically government, the agenda is usually different. It's more about citizen satisfaction. It's about, political, ambition, etc. And I think one of the projects which is very close to my heart, which was completely way out in terms of, CX expectations, is, the COVID hotline. We ran the COVID hotline for the Ministry of Health in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And at one stage, it was even an emergency hotline. But CX was really at the heart of that operation. So, people who call would have a specific need. They're not calling to inquire about a product. They're not calling to inquire, about a late delivery. The drive from the ministry wasn't about profit, wasn't about satisfaction. It was about saving people's lives and making sure that people get the care that they deserve during such a difficult time. With all of that pressure, with all of those challenges, the CX strategy was really, let's give them the best patient experience and make sure that they get, what they are calling about. And I think this is really the heart of any CX strategy. We should look at what the customer or the client actually needs. What is their requirement? And you drive your strategy from customer demand rather than what the organization simply wants to put. It's a two-way thing. It doesn't come from one side. And if you look at, the clients or the customers' demand, I think, and understand what their pain areas are, you would definitely come up with a winning CX strategy. If it's done in isolation, and then it's definitely, way out. So definitely, different segments, different, sectors have different strategies, but it's all driven by customer requirement, customer demand, and customer satisfaction at the end of it. If we talk about, the metrics that are available today, there is no need for additional metrics today. There are so many, metrics available which could be used to measure, anything that we really want. It's how do we best apply these metrics to deliver, the best service that we want.
All right, thank you, Firas. Mohammed, I'd like to understand from your point of view, what are some of the most common challenges, again, your organization is today facing? And in your opinion, how do you think it can be overcome? And then same question, Hatem, will be referred to you.
It's a lot of challenges starting while you are applying the strategy, especially inside the companies and the organization. Because first you need to define what is the CX need to be for our customers is number one. Number two, how is the harmony and the orchestra inside the department, because the working to deliver the strategy for CX, it's not one CX department. It needs support from another department to be orchestra, harmony. So one of the challenges we face is it's related to data management, integrations, how to integrate all the analytics tools, how to build it to give the right insights and show what is the metrics and KPIs we are tracking. So it's related about the product ecosystem tools. Tools the organization is use, what is the deliver, from where you will take the right information to base, to build above it your insights. This is one. Number two, the resources allocated for that part, how you will manage it, how there is availability, how there is understanding. So all of that affecting and be challenging while you are start to implement your strategy. And one of the important at the end, how to build a case study to inspire and show the effect of the customer experience inside the organization. For example, we started with the NPS, and after applying it, we measure by enhance 1 point only in NPS can be affect 1.5% in the revenue of the company. So to work based on the NPS, it's one metrics, but it's very, very effective because you listen from your customer, understand what is the pain point, how to improvement, and maybe guide you for what next you need to do to be in front line before any issue can happen. You can serve and define it and close it.
Interesting. Thank you, Mohammed. So, Hatem, from Mohammed, we heard more about the culture within and the bases being built in the correct manner. But in your opinion, and from the industry you come from, where do you see this is falling within the ministry?
So for us, when we designed for events, so we go through the usual phases, pre, during, and post.
Yeah.
So pre, usually an online engagement, interaction on the website, buying tickets, and so forth. And we try to apply communication as a main strategic tool to enhance the experience. So effective communication is very important where we work in, because what I try to do, or we try to do in our area, is give the visitor enough information so he doesn't need to ask anyone until from the time he books the ticket all the way to his seat. If I was able to seat him without asking any promoter and usher, then that's a seamless experience. However, this is not the case. We were able to do that if the vendor who's working with us understands the concept of experience and works with us. So we have a third-party private sector who still have a long way to mature in applying experience design and deployment in events. One key challenge for us is that moment of truth is when visitors, how can we identify issues in the first 2 hours of the event? So we open the doors, everybody comes in. There are some information and insights that we needed to know so we can understand where are the issues. Prior to that, the only source of information is when we do the measurement through the
that would be post
the CSAT and NPS. And so this is a face-to-face. So all our measurement happens on the ground. So we do face-to-face. We don't send emails and SMSs because everybody's receiving emails and SMSs for satisfaction surveys. So we do it face-to-face, again, because of the humane and engagement with visitors. And the way we tackled that first 3 hours of the event, or the first day when we opened, we started using a social listening tool. And this was a turnaround. It's not yet fully efficient yet because we just deployed it 3 months ago. But when today by behavior, people enter in any place, whether an event or a retail or a shop, their mobile is the first engagement with that touch point. People send pictures, send reviews, Snapchat, especially if they're influencers and so forth. So the objective was to identify pain points when visitors come in, and we capture that information through social media. Yeah. That report triggers all the pain point, touch point, whether parking or entrance, or maybe the engagement with the frontliners. We take this information within seconds. Everything is automated, so the data comes in through this platform. It goes directly to the operation on the ground. The person identifies an issue ticket. Tickets are prioritized, and then they get fixed. Hence, we don't end the day in that event, and all the issues is being fixed. Another touch point, which also gives us a lot of indication on where we are not delivering within the touch points within the event, is we placed a QR code and we said, شيء مضايقك قل لنا. If anything bothers you, so we're triggering the negative experience and not the positive. We get the positive at the end when the survey. So if I ate or went to the toilet or had an engagement and I saw the sign and I'm frustrated, I scan the QR code and send that complaint.
And we actually are seeing it a lot in many of especially the governmental factors in this manner. By the way, we've done this in Tamim markets. Today you can actually give us a survey and we'll get that real time where we understand how do you feel at that moment of truth. And this is not an advertising, but I'm just trying to say that this is how much it is important for us to know, because it helps us in the long run to have that speed to action. You talked about taking seconds into correcting that action, because when you develop a business plan, you become a blind into certain manner. So having such feedback helps a lot into correcting as you go. So in your next phase will be a much better orchestrated action. Thank you, Hatem. Going back to you, Firas. So we talked about strategies, we talked about best practices and others. In your point of view, what would be the right measurements of a success of a CX? I know it's not one size fits all, and I know with the vast different industries that you deal with it today, it might be hard to measure that success. But if you can give us, top line quickly of what do you think would be a measurement of success?
No, as I said earlier, there are a number of tools today. There are a number of measurements, CSATs, NPS, and the likes of them. They're good on the one side, but I think they're, one-sided in terms of, the positioning and in terms of, the acquisition of the data. And they come with their challenges and they come with their advantages, obviously. But I think the core, the real indicator today is word of mouth, How are your customers talking about you publicly? What is your brand perception today? The general public, are they really satisfied with this product or not? If you get 9s on your, CSATs or your NPS and everyone's promoting you, but you're losing customers, your brand, value is going down, it's meaningless, Again, what we've also seen is that usually the dissatisfied customers are the ones who fill up the surveys, which is good on the one side. Or someone who's extremely happy, they'll give you a 10, and there's ones. There's a segment in the middle who are, indifferent to the brand, but could be swayed both ways, One experience could either move them really up or move them really down. And this is human nature, I'm happy with the brand today. And it's key that we have consistent customer experiences. So yes, in answer to your question, Ghada, I'd say there is no one measure which is the right measure, and that truly indicates, whether customers are happy or not, besides, of course, how your customers feel about the brand and the word matter, and how they represent you.
I think, Firas, just to add to your point, from my experience on this, I think us as businesses, we need to make sure that we have that, طولة البال on those results, because CX is not a very old concept that came to Saudi, but it's definitely becoming a major point of work. Today, I have a very developed function within my department that is only looking at CX from a scientific point of view, and then what do we do to execute it? But we fully understand within our culture is that it's going to take time. For us to have this translated into a value towards our organization, it will be taking time, because there's a huge crowd. There is a lot of customers who are by default a natural complainer. So for you to succeed and have them on board, this is يعني يبيلكم كده قطعة نفس إلى ما نوصل to what we want to have. But I think sectors like yours, Hatem, honestly set the standards and made us all realize that a good customer experience definitely will pay off. And I'll give just a personal example of my recent experience when I went to معرض الكتاب book fair. Amazing. The minute I came in till the time I left, and I was with my kids at that time, I was beyond impressed with the organization, with the fact that everyone was smiling, everyone was taking care of me as a customer, and the reassurance was always there. So guess what? I happened to go again 3 times. And the reason being because I was contained. So thank you on behalf of my kids and myself.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I just, for perspective, the book fair is by far the largest event that the ministry has launched. It had around 100,000 visitors a day, or around 90,000. It took the longest journey mapping and measurement, the layout of how interaction and engagements happen. You have the publishers, you have the activations. So we're just still after, this is the 2nd year for us, and we're still learning.
Honestly, I'd say that you guys made it a destination, and definitely you did something that we never expected at the Eastern Province. كل شيء يصير بالرياض وإحنا ناسينا شوية. It was an amazing experience. All right, I think we have only 4 minutes to go. So this leads me to my next question, which is the heart of our conversation. And this is for you, Mohammed. How can the organization ensure that customer or the citizen comes first in the CX and their strategy? And what are the steps they can take to prioritize the customers and their expectations?
It's a good question. Related that to the organization, how you start to collect the data and understand what is the current journey. You understand from the multiple metrics, NPS, CS, CSAT, and even retention rate, voice of customer tools, listening to understand what is the pain point, what is people is saying about your brand, what is their behaviors, what is most critical point inside the journey. So we collect all of that and prioritize based on the percentage of each pain point. What is the customer need actually from our application to meet their expectation, and especially when the customer is made a booking in the travel industry, he didn't or she didn't need to find any problem while they are traveling, because while they are traveling maybe they can't reach anyone. So how to deliver that experience to them and make sure the customers trust the brand. This is important. If I trust a brand, I made a booking, I forget a lot of things. But there is some cases customer made the booking and trying to follow up. How is that it will be? So by next step, to be consistent between the channels. How is that to be? That's what I'm talking about. It's about orchestra. How the customer, when communicate with any touch point, how feel it's the same experience. It's a Matar, for example, in our case. Yes, when I'm reached via chat, application, by phone call, it's a Matar. Same service, same quality, same everything.
Same expectations.
Exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
thank you. I'm going to have the last question for you all, and that would be to ensure that we tackle this session properly and ask you all, how can organizations continue to innovate and improve their CX strategy over time? And what trends and technology should we consider being an eye of the coming years? I can start with you, Firas.
I think when it comes to CX, there is no end line, there is no end point that you reach, You have to keep raising the bar, year on year, project after project. And I think today's customers are happy. A new brand will come up, a new competitor will come up, which exceeds your current CX. So you have to keep improving, and I think that's the only way. So raise the benchmark, raise the bar, and keep improving.
Thank you. Hatem, very quickly, if we can hear from you.
I think I would have a different perspective on this. It depends on your target audience. So today, Generation Z is the future. They compose 65% of the population. Gen Z is tech savvy, very driven. They want conversation face-to-face on their technologies. If we don't innovate on that, then we're missing out on the next 10 to 20 years. So in our case, we designed, so where does culture impact Gen Z is in the content. So when they enter an event, like the gamers event that General Entertainment does in Musim al-Riyadh, they capture all the Gen Zs there because these are gamers by nature. But when we come to cultural event, for them it's boring. It's old. It's my grandfather and father and مين يبغى يسمع تاريخ والتقاليد وhistory والعرضة والقهوة السعودية. So this is where we're now working on a strategy to work on NFTs, metaverse, virtual realities, augmented realities. These are today is a plan within our sector where we have this part of content engagement with this sector. Of course, we don't forget the other generation. We still listen to them. And I think evolution comes, as everyone, we always say, sharing is caring. I think here is listening is caring. When we tell these consumers or customers or visitors that we have listened. But it doesn't only stop there with the information you captured, is what are you going to do with it?
So we listened when we gave.
Yes, so if you tell them that you actually listen to them, thank you for the feedback, we have fixed the issue. I mean, Ogilvy presented some examples on targeted and personalized communication. This is a good way. Sometimes we use it on the ground. We fix this situation and we tell the person. So closing the loop after solving the problem is very important. Even an announcement on a social media channel adds value. The other last thing I want to mention, service. These citizens, they have the right for saying whatever they're saying. You know, service, what is their right? Can they actually complain or not? Today, we have a big opportunity on educating citizens and customers for their rights. And some companies, they disregard that and take advantage of that. There are people who travel and they know what is service quality. If I don't get a plate of food that is hot, I can return it and get another one or get paid back. Today, people, they're still, you know, on average service. People cannot compare, is this, I can do that or not. I think in our role today, maybe from a government perspective, is this is where we actually tell them you have the right to do this, you have the right to complain, and so forth. So playing that role, elevate the service and quality.
I think, Hatem, if I may interrupt here, it's our part to innovate and evolve with our customers. So it's not just the customers that needs to be doing their job. Internally, within the organization, a lot needs to be changed. The mentality, the mindset, even the recruitments of our talents today has to be changed. تكلمنا عن الواحد المفروض يكون عنده طولة بال, but at the same time, you have to embrace that culture and you have to understand that this is something that for the long run, it serves the country, it serves the customers, but more an utter must, it serves the organization itself. I'm really sorry we ran out of time, but it was a very lovely discussion with you gentlemen. Thank you so much, and thank you for your audience for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.